Dr. Landahl tonight for the third time. He's a member of our third-time guests in Current Conversations now. We're going to be talking about this new school year impacted by the pandemic, some of the things that parents and families can be prepared for. And we want to get through as many questions as we can. So you can submit them through the chat, which should be on the right-hand side, or you can also use the Ask a Question button that you can find along the bottom of your screen. And to make sure we get through as many as we can, I'm just going to hand it over to our Beacon editor, Jeff Sims, so we can get started, and hopefully we can get through those audio issues, but bear with us for a minute while we get that figured out.
All right. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, Dr. Landahl, for joining us once again.
Yes, thank you.
You've got to hold some sort of a regional record for Zoom hours logged over the last year.
Yeah, I think my numbers are up there for sure.
Yeah, they are. Anyway, yes, I'll get right into it. I've got a handful of questions myself.
But Jeff, this is Crowdcast, so this is different.
I understand. You're right. Yeah, we've moved we've moved platforms, but you're still logging a lot of video hours.
I've had the same background for a year and a half, so I might need to change something on my wall. I think people are tired of seeing the art from when my son was 2. So.
Or come on with your hair like dyed pink or something, just to throw people off. Anyway, my first question, the new governor, Kathy Hochul, when she was sworn in, I think one of the first things she said is that an immediate priority was the safe reopening of schools 5 days a week. You've now been in about 3 weeks or so. How's everything going for teachers and students?
I think it's going really well. It's not necessarily easy. I think a lot of people have been adjusting to being back full time. And, since we were hybrid for a lot of last year, and because of all the remote students, we stayed remote on Wednesdays till the bitter end. A teacher put on Twitter just the other day that last week was the first 5-day week that 5 days of in-person school in Beacon that kids and staff have had since March of 2020. So so there's that adjustment, but I think it's going really well. I think many of the things people were worried about, maybe it's a little bit less right now. The kids have been great wearing masks. So that's been going well. And the weather's been super agreeable, and we've been using a lot of outdoor space at all levels. And so that's going really well. And, I think it's been a great start.
Okay. I remember the last time we spoke, which was toward the end of last school year. You were just about to, or you were in the process of going back, I guess, 4 days a week. And as you said, keeping that Wednesday hybrid or remote for everyone. And one of the things you said to me, the reason to go ahead and make that change toward the end of the school year was you wanted to end on a good note. Mm-hmm. And I think you did. And then over the summer, we had the Delta stuff happen, and a lot of things, numbers went way up. Yeah. So you ended the school year on a good note, but then the summer externally didn't necessarily go as we were planning. Was that a big setback when you had to get ready to start in September again this year?
Yes and no. I think it definitely gave a lot of people some pause and generated a lot of questions, I think, from folks, especially kind of the month of August. If I'm not that it's that far away, but meaning August, it's only a month away or a month ago. But I think in a way it helped us get a little bit sharper for the start of the school year. And so so anyway, I think it kind of helped us get all the things we needed to get in place, because we wanted to make sure things were as safe as we can make it. And but that all being said, certainly back in April of last year or May, I didn't see this coming like most people. So it did kind of snap everybody back a little bit. But the thing that I always did sort of go back to was the American Pediatric Association, the CDC, New York DOH, and the list goes on and on. Despite the Delta wave this summer, they never wavered from their feeling that kids should be back in school as much as possible, ideally full time. And so having that foundation was nice to build on. And I think the other thing that happened, this is now 2 years of this happening, but schools in the South typically start about a month before we do. And so both years, I can't predict the future, so I'm not sure what will happen, but both years, it seems like that, there was more spread. And certainly this year there was, verifiable more spread in southern states. And so all the media, the national media is just talking about outbreaks in schools just continuously throughout the whole month of August. And in a sense, we've had that 2 years in a row. And so you're sort of combating that a little bit too, even though a lot of those states didn't have mask mandates. A lot of those states didn't have some of the things that, we've had in place. And so, anyway, I almost feel like those stories that, I don't want to say viral, but they get really a lot of attention right at the start of the school year. And it sort of gets, it increases the anxiety. And so, that we're always kind of dealing with that. And, I always say, and I obviously mean this, but I'm a parent as well, and, have many of the same worries that everybody else does. And so I truly do try to look at it from that vantage point too. But it certainly was an interesting summer. One of the other things I always said to whoever would listen last spring was I thought this year in some ways would be more challenging, just with the pandemic and stuff. And, in some ways it is, in some ways it isn't, but it certainly has some new challenges. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that jumps out at me as a difference between last year and this one is that last year you had things changing. It felt like almost on a daily or weekly basis in terms of the new data that you were getting, and then the new guidance from the state. And
right,
you could hardly tell which way things were coming from because there was so much information coming. Right. It seems like that has slowed down a little bit this year, and the big thing that I see looming on the horizon as a game changer, so to speak, is sometime in the relatively near future, we're going to have vaccines approved for elementary age students,
right?
5 to 11, I believe. So how do you think that will change things? In the middle of a school year, I guess that'll happen.
Well, I mean, I'll start by saying I say this in a lot of different presentations. For the most part, I'm not the one who makes the decision on vaccinations, and certainly like a mandate for young children would come from someone other than me. I always say that because vaccines, parents approach them with a lot of thoughtfulness and stuff, and so I don't want to alarm anyone. But that being said, it looks like in the coming weeks, the FDA will probably give emergency authorization to Pfizer, ages 5 to 11. And the impact I think that will have is that I think if people take advantage of it, and it is optional, but if people take advantage of it, I think obviously it's going to reduce spread just in the general community to some level. but it also will decrease anxiety of folks who want to make use of the vaccine. And I think they'll feel safer. And I wish, my wishes are kind of worthless, but I wish it could have been available in August. And, but that's, not the way it worked. And it looks like late October, early November or something. So, maybe from what I'm hearing. So I know, parents who feel or who've read up on it, or I'm sure there'll be a lot more to learn about it over the next month, but parents who feel like they want that for their child, I think it will decrease anxiety, and it's probably going to decrease spread in the community as well. And all those things are good. And, it's something, well, obviously I'll investigate as a parent with my wife as well. And I think generally we're really excited about having the opportunity to take advantage of it as a family. So I know, it's exciting to have, but I think I've also learned, that just from all these past experiences, that it's not the end point. and I think sometimes we're all looking for this end point. And certainly like a year ago, I thought the end point was going to be much clearer. But that said, I think it's certainly a huge step to have it available. So I'm excited as someone who is responsible for many 5 to 11-year-olds in our community when they're in school. I am excited to have it available.
Right. Okay. Switch gears a little bit, then go to something, I guess, a little less tangible, but we hear about it often: learning loss. After last year, where kids were either in a hybrid model or at home the entire year. It's probably too early to say, to give any real definite answers, since this school year and this new back to school kind of environment has just begun. But what are your feelings on how this is going to impact kids long term?
Right. We have an assessment plan that, we talked about at the board meeting on Monday, but that is already kind of in place, but will be more in place in the coming weeks. And we're going to get some good baseline data on students. But that being said, I think the students it impacts, this is impacted the most. Pretty certain the data will back me up, but this is more of what I'm seeing and talking with teachers is kids kind of at the different transition ages. So the kids who entered school, during this, like kindergarten, if they experience kindergarten or pre-K or something during the last 2 years, it definitely, I think, will impact or is impacting them at a greater force. And, students who sort of transition into middle school or high school as well. And so, we've been designing, and we had some things in place last year, but with the rescue money, it will be even more so. Like, we have some just supports that will be in place for students, and they'll be available for many, many students. But we really think some of those ages are where we want to focus our time, because it's a hard time to transition to new learning environments in the midst of this. And the same, I was talking about a teacher who put something on Twitter about, the last time we had a full week, she tweeted, there's some meme that she tweeted, and it was, I'm going to see if I can get it right, but it was like, it was sort of a chart of all the grades. And it was like the last time that grade had a full sort of normal, quote unquote, year in school. And so I think of my son who's in 4th grade. And so on the chart, it would be 1st grade, and so for 2nd graders, it was, there wasn't a thing on the chart. For 1st graders, there wasn't a year on the chart. Kindergarten, obviously there wasn't a year on the chart. So there's a bunch of kids that haven't had just sort of that full, school year. And so those things are important to reflect on. So that all being said, kids are also enormously resilient, and that, I've seen that my whole career. And so, I've also seen just a lot of excitement in being back, and kids kind of embracing the old routines. And so, and so that's been really cool to see. So, I'm not the hugest fan of the phrase learning loss, but it was used by the federal government and has kind of become cemented and everything. But I really do believe, and it's great to have this extra funding to do it, like just providing more supports for kids really over the next couple of years through like tutoring or extra time, just to, support them through this and give them some extra boosts. When my child's teacher, we had Meet the Teacher night last week on Zoom, and she said she really felt the kids didn't really miss a lot and she felt like they were kind of where they needed to be as fourth graders. But it's interesting, she said the one thing I feel like they're lagging as a whole, like every single student, is spelling. And so I think teachers are going to find like these things, like, gosh, they're a little bit behind here and they're a little bit behind here, but and we're seeing that already, but it's really exciting to have everybody back, and we're really going to try to support all of our students as much as we can, who've had such a disrupted experience.
And kind of a variation on that theme. I mean, I know the district is going to work on a social, emotional study as well. Is that right? That to address what students missed in that way for being, in such a fractured environment over the last 18 months.
Right. We did a social emotional inventory through kind of a partnership with BOCES right at the end of the last school year. We're actually going to share the data in a Zoom, just so I can keep my Zoom streak going in a Zoom tomorrow. And but we've already, we had the data in August and we've been working with it, and we're contemplating maybe adding a couple temporary positions that are focused on social emotional supports. We have a team of folks exploring a new social emotional curriculum to try to implement in the coming months. And there's lots of things. We're trying to make connections also with mental health counselors in the community. Because it's just all the excitement of kids being back and everything has been awesome, but there's been a lot of trauma over the last couple of years for sure. I think everybody's experienced it in some way or another, and so we really want to be open and supportive of that. Our mental health folks in the district have been great and really working hard. And really working on trying to identify needs with kids, and our administrators have been great, and our teachers, I think, have really tried to approach it with that mindset too. But the social emotional thing in many ways has been something that I've been even more concerned about, for sure.
Here's one from a listener sent us a question. When vaccinated teachers and students are exposed at school, they are not informed or quarantined. As a result, they may unknowingly bring the virus home and expose unvaccinated or immune-compromised family members. Can we improve on this by testing everyone who is exposed?
That's a great question. And so a couple things to say about that. All of the language from the state level around testing is that it does require parent permission, and the only people that we are complying to test are unvaccinated staff. That being said, we are super excited to start having on-site testing probably within a week to 10 days. So dedicated testing here on site probably 2 to 3 days a week. Rapid testing. And so we're obviously having to focus on staff who need it, but we also will open it up to students. And we do want to make it available for people, who want or need to get tested. And, me just personally working in person for almost this whole time, I've gotten tested a number of times throughout all this, and it does provide sort of that peace of mind and or good information. And so we're excited to we had to do this with the Dutchess County Department of Health They have the federal grant. I think it's via counties across the entire country, certainly New York State, and Dutchess County has been great, and they've identified some providers. We are just about to kind of figure out who we're going to work with, and they're all ready to start pretty much as soon as possible. And so we're going to have this on-site testing that we want to make available to lots of people. I know I'm not specifically answering your question, but complying students to test without parent permission is something we can't do. So that's the one thing I have to say about that too.
Okay. And that testing will be available, you said, a couple days a week. Is that ongoing, or is it just like a one-time thing?
No, it will be the entire school year.
Okay.
The grant, Dutchess County, I think it's like $5 or $6 million, and so it's specifically for schools. So each school will have on-site testing, and so we're excited to have it, because we would also like to we deal with a lot of people who get nervous, parents, staff. And we'd love to just say, hey, instead of having to like drive around and go to wherever to get it, like the people will be here tomorrow morning,
right?
At 8 o'clock or whatever, and you can just get it done and find out. And so we're really excited to have that. Ideally it would have been right at the start of the year, but I think part of all this was the whole governor transition thing, and and that happening when it did, and so things just got a teeny bit delayed, but it's really not the fault of any local folks. So anyway, we're excited to be able to have that very, very soon.
Okay. Here's the big curveball question for you. It's not about the pandemic.
Okay.
Tell me other things you're excited about this year that don't have to do with the pandemic. Other things going on in the district.
Right. I could go on and on here. So we are super excited. We have a capital project vote on October 26th, and it's a pretty big project for us, $26 million. We had input from stakeholders in each school. Despite the 26 million, it's still tax neutral. But what I'm really excited about with it, obviously, it takes care of a lot of just critical building needs that we have, but it also in each school, it really kind of recreates some learning space or learning spaces. And so there's some outdoor learning spaces being reinvented at a couple of our elementary schools, some indoor learning spaces being reinvented. And at the middle school, we're going to just completely renovate a couple of art classrooms and a couple of science classrooms. The high school, we're doing some science lab renovation, and we're going to redo our TV studio. So, this is all pending voter approval, but I'm really excited. It's been really fun. We met with a couple of school teams this afternoon, and it's just been really cool. We have a new architect who's working with us, and he's been fantastic. And so anyway, that's really exciting. Having our extracurriculars back, not only sports, obviously, but just, performances and clubs and all of that is just sort of started. That has been really cool to see. Participation has been good and has returned. And so it's been really, really nice to see that, and then just things as we go through the year. And also, we certainly, COVID is a lift. It's a lift for everybody. I always think of our staff, all of our staff that support our students, and how hard the last couple of years have been. So there's this continual challenge with COVID, but it also feels like we're more ready to move initiatives forward in the district. And so we have a lot of energy and focus on curriculum improvements this year and beyond this year, and just kind of, I've kind of stopped using back to normal. Just because it kind of just almost seems pointless to say it now, but it is really exciting to be back together, and so it's exciting to have like some big projects lifting off that don't really have anything to do COVID. Although I will say this about the Capitol project, like there are, a couple of outdoor spaces that we're putting a lot of funds in, and then we've made, some smaller scale improvements to have, students be able to go outside more with like lunch and whatnot. And this is kind of COVID related, but it's been really cool to see people just embrace that and kids spending more time outdoors. And hopefully we can figure out ways to do even more of that. So that's been really exciting too.
And we're going to let you go in a second because I know you've got a soccer game to get to. The only thing I want to add to that is the bringing back the extracurricular stuff. I mean, that's going to have a huge impact on the social emotional stuff that we were talking about. Just getting kids interacting with one another in person,
right,
regularly.
Right,
it's got to be huge.
No, it is, and I mean, last year we made along with probably every other school, a valiant effort at trying to do many of these things. But this year, it's cool to just see it's like all in, and we're all, doing things. I mean, obviously with the necessary safety protocols, but it's been really cool. I saw it as a dad, when my son was able to have more opportunities to do things, I always know his mood was far improved, and we see it with all the students. And so you're right to point it out, Jeff. Like, it's not always counseling and a new social emotional curriculum. It's also like I get to do the stuff I used to do, and that's huge. And so it's really exciting. It's exciting. Like I said, I'm heading over to the high school after this to check out the end of the soccer game. But it's cool to see people be able to gather outdoors again. That's been really, really nice for multiple generations in Beacon to be able to come to games. You see grandparents all the way down to little kids, and so it's been really cool.
For sure. Well, that's it.
All right.
Thank you so much for joining us. And
yes, I can't wait for number 4, Jeff.
Number 4 with you.
I'm ready for you. As long as they'll keep watching, we'll keep doing it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, make it tonight. We'll be posting this online tomorrow.
Okay. Sounds
Have
good.
a good night. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, guys.